pedaling for 20 minutes starts to trigger the development of the hippocampus, and the hippocampus is responsible for learning and memory development. And so
it's not where hippos go to university.
No. Do you interrupt Meg for that?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Adam Beckett, news editor of Cycling Weekly, and welcome back to episode 11 of Off the Back, our podcast. With me today are Meg Elliott. Hi, Meg.
Hello.
And Tom Davidson. Hi, Tom.
Hello, once again. Hello.
Back for a second week, Tom. We can't keep you away. How was your Easter weekend?
This is actually the third week running.
Wow.
Yeah, good. Nice Easter weekend. I went back home to the South Coast. I watched my football team, which is the same football team that you are wearing a shirt off today, Adam.
Complete coincidence.
Southampton. I went to a historic win against Arsenal in the FA Cup. But obviously that is not what the listeners have come here for. If that is what the listeners have come here for, then I'm more than happy to talk about that for an hour.
I was going to say, I feel quite a lot like Max Rushton when I'm doing the presenting gig. Like I feel like it's harder being the straight man than it is being like the funny man. You know what I mean? Like you've got to, yeah. Anyway, Meg, how was your Easter weekend?
My Easter weekend was lovely. I went to a farm. I looked at some goats. Me and Tom were just talking about goats before, because I was saying how sad I am that I might not see any goats this weekend at Paris-Roubaix. Obviously the most exciting thing about Paris-Roubaix. No. Yeah, I was at Bristol exploring your neck of the woods, Adam.
Did you do any cycling?
No.
Well, welcome to our cycling podcast. I don't think Tom did any cycling.
I did do some cycling. I cycled to the pub yesterday.
Nice.
You know, and I cycled to a night
cycled
out.
around town.
Yeah, there we go. Now we'll remember it.
We've all done some commuting by bike.
Yeah.
But you know, Storm Dave put me off actual cycling. Let me say. But moving on, the biggest thing that happened in cycling this weekend, beyond us cycling to the pub and back, was the Tour of Flanders. Tom, did you watch much of it on Sunday?
Yeah, so I was on a train back, and the signal was quite patchy, and it seemed to be I would get the bits in between the cobbled sectors after just random residential Belgian roads. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as they would get about halfway up the Quaremont, then it would just go like blank screen, you have lost signal. And then I would get it again and they'd be separated. But I did follow along and I knew what happened. And I managed to watch a lot of it, though frustratingly and grumbling quite loudly on the train. But yeah, I watched it.
You were grumbling?
Yeah, well, you know, whenever it cut out, I was cursing, cursing under my breath.
Not at the result.
Not at the result. The result was fine for me, but both results, yeah, there was nothing to be cursing about those. But it was more the connection.
I watched both of them on the television, just a couple of meters over there on my sofa for the first time since 2021. I've been at the Tour of Flanders every year in between then and now, which seems mad. That's a long time.
How did it feel? Did you get FOMO? Were you feeling like you wish you'd been there?
There were moments of FOMO, like obviously like the Quaremont, like the cauldron of the Quaremont is so like watching the riders ride through that funnel of fans, and you can just see the flares. Not that we condone flares, but the flares look cool on TV, that's for sure. And the beer in the air, and the kind of the cheering Belgians. And then just seeing all the people on social media who were there and loving it and jumping up on banks just to get a glimpse and everything. I did miss that. But then there was a moment, I don't know whether you were watching it this bit, Tom, where I'd say with about 80 kilometers to go, it was when it was the elite group of 4 or 5 had formed at the front of the men's race. It absolutely tipped it down. And in that moment, I was like, I'm so glad I'm not stood in a field in Belgium, because, you know, it's like being at a festival. There's no cover. There's mud and more mud, and that's about it. But
what I was curious about is, what is the day out? So, you know, the riders go through the Quaremont for the last time. Mm-hmm. Then you will stand there. You're kind of. I assume that there are screens that you can see the result on.
This is some excellent insight. Actually.
What do you do then when the race is finished? Because you're in the middle of a field, in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, yeah. So things are a little bit more organised than they might seem, because there are shuttle buses put on by the race organisers.
Yeah, but you're herding very drunk sheep at that point, aren't you?
Yeah. Let me get to it.
Sorry,
so
I'll sit back. Go.
On the way to the Quaremont, I mean, if you're really dedicated, you're there from like 11, because I think the men go past for the first time quite early, and then they go and do the loop. But so you're there from like, I don't know, 11, which means you're in Oudenaarde at 10 to get the shuttle bus. Shuttle bus drops you off in the middle of nowhere. You walk up the hill. Then you're just drinking Jupiler all day. Why
Jupiler? Is that what they're selling there? Is that
that's like the standard Belgian lager? You know,
that's
like,
the
they're
one
not
to
all
get from
drinking
the
fancy
shops.
Belgian beer. They're drinking, you know, their version of Carling, which is Jupiler.
Okay.
They sponsor the Belgian Premiership, interestingly, football. So you're kind of waiting around for the race. Then the race comes past. The men's race comes past 3 times. The women's race comes past once. So after the men's race is finished, you're kind of like rushing towards the big screen to see the finale, which is about 22k after the top of the Quaremont, because they do the Koppenberg and then it's about an hour until the women come past. They only do the Quaremont once, and so the women come past, and then you repeat the same thing of rushing to the screen. If you're a kind of like if you're a reactionary, possibly misogynist, at that point you leave and you probably get home quite quickly, because not everyone is leaving, because everyone's staying around to watch the women's race. But then the women's race finishes, and then there's just it's so slow, and obviously you run out of beer at that point.
You're tired. You want your bed.
Tired. You're quite drunk. You haven't sat down all day. You've been battered by the elements, and you're just in like a slow trudge down the Quaremont to the biggest queue you've ever seen to get the bus back to Oudenaarde. It's not like you couldn't walk it, and if you did walk it, it'd probably be like an hour and a half. But that's the end of the day. That's the end of the day at the Tour of Flanders.
I suspected as much, but it's good to have it confirmed.
Back to my original point, though, which was that watching it on TV did mean that I actually watched the race. I don't think you take it a bit for granted when you watch a bike race on TV that you actually see the whole thing, and I really enjoyed it.
What did you make of it? Why don't we'll start with the men's race then? Very surprising winner in Tadej Pogačar. Who could have seen that one coming? What did you make of it?
I thought it went exactly how he and UAE wanted it, which is expected. You know, they had the strongest team. They could soften it up from so far out. They whittled the race down from so far out. Like the selection had happened with about 100 kilometers to go, which is so far out. And then it just felt a bit inevitable. You wonder if Van der Poel maybe did a bit too much work earlier on, but Tadej Pogačar feels inevitable. And Remco Evenepoel did a pretty good job on debut. I mean, those are the big two main takeaways. Wout van Aert looked okay, and there's still promise for him, I think, in coming races. But it's Pogačar. You know, it almost seems mad that he's only done it 4 times now, because it seems like a race made for him as much as the other classics. You know, like it's basically Strada Bianchi but with cobbles instead of gravel. Did you feel the same?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, I said it on the podcast last week that it was very much Pogačar's to lose. I don't think there was beside my sarcasm a minute ago, I don't think there was much surprising about the result. Meg, do you feel that same sense of inevitability about Tadej Pogačar at the moment?
Well, of the 3 races he's done this year, he's won every single one of them. But Paris-Roubaix seems to be like a race that could offer maybe more of an unexpected result. Do you think that it's in the bag for him, Adam?
It's definitely not in the bag. I'd actually say, I said this in a meeting earlier, I said it was about 50-50, which seems mad, but like, if you're, it's kind of, if nothing goes wrong for him, then I think he's going to win, which is a mad thing to say about a rider who's won the Tour de France at Paris-Roubaix. Like we've become used to this, but that isn't normal. But he is going to be the favourite on Sunday, I think, Tom.
Yeah, there was a quote that Van der Poel gave after Flanders that kind of stood out to me. It was to Sportster, and he said, "Cycling is very simple. I was riding 650 watts and just couldn't hold his wheel. I had one problem. There is a phenomenon riding around here. I did everything I had to do, but there was someone stronger. There was nothing I could do about it." And if you'd asked me before I'd read that quote which way I thought Roubaix was going to go, I would have said 50-50. Reading that, it feels like there's a bit of resignation in Van der Poel at the moment. He's lost to, well, not lost to, he's been beaten by Pogačar at San Remo. He's been beaten by him at Flanders. These are races that Van der Poel has won multiple times, and now he's chasing Pogačar at them. I don't think it's in Van der Poel's nature to roll over, and I think we will see a very good race. I think we'll see a more even race. I mean, Roubaix doesn't have the launch pads that Flanders has, so there's no Quarmont for Pogačar to launch off or to attack on. But I do think it will be closer than last year. Then last year was very close until Pogačar crashed.
Yeah, and it's just his team as well. Like they can just drill it. Like, they can just drill it for longer, and then just, I don't know. We'll see. Because as you say, there isn't a hill. There aren't hills at Roubaix. So how he produces that kind of difference, time will tell. The women's race though, Tom, was won by Demi Vollering. Again, I guess the favourite one, you'd say. I mean, on current form anyway. But it was an impressive victory nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realise it until I looked at her results afterwards. I think I tipped Kopecky to win, which was quite an obvious one to go for, considering she'd won 3 Flanders before. Including
definitely last year, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But Vollering is low-key on a bit of an all-timer of a season at the moment. I mean, she's had 7 race days. She's won 4 of them, including Omloop Het Nieuwsblad and the Tour of Flanders. Plus, she got a 5th win by winning the overall at Valenciana. So that's 5 wins from 7 race days. Yeah, I mean, she was very good. She looked solid, the bit that I was able to see on my patchy stream on the Quarmont. And then just tempoed away and looked really, really kind of supreme riding away. Didn't ever look to be too much in doubt. There was a chase behind her. Dropping Pauline Ferrand-Prévot like she did was probably quite a nice boost for her after what happened at the Tour de France last year. Yeah, I think we're on for a very strong Demi Vollering season here.
And it was in the same place. I mean, perhaps that's not surprising given how important the Quaremont is, but both race-winning moves happened there. And then it was just, I think, not that I ever thought Pogačar was going to come back, but Vollering just looked so much more just, once she was gone, she was gone. But there was, and there were 2 riders behind her as well.
Well, I think testament to that is that her winning margin was bigger than Pogačar's. Pogačar's was about 30-something seconds, and Vollering's was in the 40s. And she was holding off.
And Vollering sat up.
And she sat up.
She did her Namaste.
Her Namaste, which we've come to see a lot of her from this season. But obviously, I don't think we can pin it all on just Vollering's successes. That there has been a bit of a shift at FDJ United Suez this season. The signing of Franzi Koch has been inspired. But then you've also got Celia Jerry, who has really stepped up this year. Elise Chabet, who won Strade Bianchi. All 3 of those riders finished in the top 20 at Flanders. And that quality that Vollering has in her teammates just means that when you see it get to the kind of spiky end of races or towards the attacking moments, she has 3 teammates around her, and everyone else is lucky to have 1. So,
yeah, it feels a bit like UAE. Like FDJ were able to kind of thin the bunch twice, and then when it was down to that select group, it was Koch again who kind of blew it apart. Like, obviously Vollering had to finish it off, but it was her team that brought her there to the finish. And then you had this kind of group who they clearly hadn't given up, but it was quite an odd group because they had 3 UAE riders in there and Lotte Kopecky and Zoe Backstead who came to the finish, which they probably thought they might have been able to clinch the podium, which they couldn't because of Puck Peters and Pauline Ferrand-Prévot in front. But the most impressive thing about the rest of the day for me was that Zoe Backstead sprinted to 5th, which is pretty inspired.
Yeah, I mean, Meg. Sorry, I was going to say, yeah, you interviewed Zoe for our Rider of the Year last year. What did you get an impression that she was lining up for a big season?
Well, when I spoke to her, she had her arm in a cast from a training crash, so she did half the races that she did the previous year. So, yeah, but I mean, she's such an impressive rider. Like, just speaking to her, the impression I got was just someone who was so passionate about cycling in all of its many forms, which I guess just makes her such a strong rider as well. But yeah, it would be interesting to see how she continues to develop this season, after having some time off the bike as well. So yeah, coming just after last year's winner at Tour of Flanders as well is super impressive after finishing. Was it 55th last year she came?
Not last year. It was the year before, 2023. So she's only raced. Oh no, 2020. Yeah, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. She's only raced it twice essentially, and she's gone from 55th to 5th, which is not a bad feat. I think she's only 21. Like that's the mad thing.
This is what blew my mind. She's 21. She's ridden Paris-Roubaix 3 times and the Tour of Flanders twice.
Yeah, and Tom, we've been working at Cycling Weekly for more or less about the same amount of time, give or take 3 or 4 years, and it feels like Zoe Baxter's been winning things that whole time. And I think she's almost a bit. Is it mad to say we underrate her?
Yes, I think so. Well, I mean, she was so good.
We probably don't, because we're her biggest cheerleaders.
We're the British press.
I think the cycling world probably does.
She has been named Cycling Weekly Rider of the Year twice, and she's only 21.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe we don't underrate her. But I remember staying up late and reporting on her winning the Junior Worlds in Wollongong in Australia. And she decimated it at the time. Like, it's quite rare that a rider wins both the road race and the time trial. She decimated it, went on then to sign a pro contract with EF, raced Roubaix in her first year, but it was very clear for her that the first few years would be about developing and growing and adapting to the level and not trying too much to perform. She didn't want to put any pressure on herself. And what we are seeing now, I think, is the fruits of that, where we have a rider that can come into Flanders at 21 years old, having only ridden the race once before, and ride so confidently and maturely alongside Lotte Kopecky, who has won it 3 times.
And also, it's impressive just that her team clearly back her as well, because Cassia Niewiadoma wasn't there. And I mean, that team has had Chloe Daiger and Cecily Uttrup-Ludwig in it, 2 riders who have won a lot of things in their careers, their long careers. And nope, it's the 21-year-old who was kind of given the backing and who outperformed them as well. I mean, it's pretty good. And we'll see how that goes down at Roubaix this weekend.
Well, this is it. This is the bad thing. Maybe the only bad thing to come out of it is that she's put a bit of a target on her back for Roubaix now, because she's always had a big media focus on her at that race, because her dad won it in 2004 very spectacularly. And, she's always been followed by, oh, do you want to emulate your dad? And she's obviously not going to say, no, actually, I'd be pretty happy never to win Roubaix. So people will ask her questions. And now, having finished 5th at Flanders, people will put her among the contenders for that, because she is very suited to a race like that, because she's very powerful and is technically a brilliant rider. So
yeah, I mean, this is mad to say because she finished 5th, but you wouldn't say Flanders suits her. Maybe that opinion has changed now, because
you would say that, because I mean, when the riders that win it are 2 riders that have won the Tour de France in Demi Vollering and Tadej Pogačar, it's increasingly becoming a race for climbers rather than kind of classic specialists out and out. So yes, I agree with you. I don't think that is a silly thing to say.
Well, yeah, but if Zoe Baxter does want to win Flanders, she shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm not the kind of rider that does win Tour of Flanders anymore. But anyway, that's our Flanders roundup. Unless there's anything else that you spotted, Tom.
No, the only thing I've got in my show notes here is I'd like to give a shout out to Puck Pieterse, who is having a very good season without really getting many plaudits for it. 6th at Strade, 4th at San Remo, 3rd at Flanders. Every time I turn on the TV, she seems to be in the move. She's got a very good knack for finding the attacking move and going with it. Next up for her, she's not doing Roubaix, so next up for her is the Ardennes. She podiumed at all 3 last year. She won Flèche.
Yeah.
So, could she win the treble? Who am I to say no?
She did look a bit spent at the end, because she got out of her saddle to try and sprint against Pauline Parapro, who you'd think on paper she would comfortably out sprint, and she just kind of sat back down again. It was kind of well,
I don't. As you would know, as someone who has done the Tour of Flanders Sportive, that your legs that your legs are very unpredictable at that point. But you did beat your friends, didn't you, in the sprint at the end? That they didn't know.
I lost the sprint.
Well, exactly. Well, who are you to be shooting arrows at Puck Pieterse then?
I'm not shooting arrows at Pogačar. I'm saying she looked spent, and fair enough. I mean, I can't be throwing stones because I lost in a sprint to about someone half my weight at the end of the Tour of Flanders sport team last year. But no, I just thought that I wrote about this in my newsletter today. But my main takeaway was the race looked really good on TV. Isn't bike racing good? I mean, that's not a particularly enlightened opinion, but it is one that I think sometimes I forget when I'm at, I'm not able to watch a race in full all the time. It's just a shame that it's not easy to watch anymore. Basically,
I would say generally, isn't bike racing good? It's the party line from Cycling Weekly. So yeah, I'm happy to concur with you on that one.
Yeah, just bring back Eurosport. That's what I say. Moving on, should we talk about some of the biggest stories on the website this week? Starting with, I'm gonna mess the order a bit. Meg, can you tell us how cycling might make our brains fitter?
Yes. Well, it's been research.
Because you're a neuroscientist now, aren't
I'm a
you?
neuroscientist, disguised as a bicycle writer. Yeah, so it's kind of like the latest in a few stories about kind of the link between aerobic exercise and brain development. And it was a study of 14 people who who were suffering from drug-resistant epilepsy, aged between 17 to 50. And their brains were monitored during cycling exercises. They found that pedaling for 20 minutes starts to trigger the development of the hippocampus, and the hippocampus is responsible for learning and memory development. And so
it's not where hippos go to university.
No. Do you interrupt Meg for that?
Yeah,
but it is. I didn't realize quite how it's very close to the brain stem, not brain stem, what's it called? It's in an unexpected part of the brain. I didn't expect, kind of central. Can anyone support me on this one?
I've got an A-level in psychology, Meg, and I am afraid I've no idea what you're talking about.
our listeners who don't have the audio, Meg's just kind of vaguely been pointing at her head for a bit.
It's here, I think. I need to get on my bike for 20 minutes. But basically, yeah. So after 20 minutes, there's a ripple effect, they describe it as, in the hippocampus, and these ripple effects are the things that are that trigger the memory creation, and basically, and the higher your heart rate goes, the faster the ripple effects are. There was another study that was done that looked at the data from 450,000 people, and they looked at the information about how these people got around. Some were taking the bus, some were taking the car, some were cycling, some were walking. And the people who cycled were 19% less likely to develop dementia and 22% less likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. So there's this kind of growing body of research that suggests that exercise, maybe particularly cycling, can help the development of the hippocampus, which naturally stops growing when you're in your late adulthood, when you hit 60 or so, and that neuroplasticity can be kind of developed even beyond that great age.
So if you basically, to boil it down, if you wanted any more encouraging to get on your bike, it also helps your brain.
Yeah, but what I loved about, so Pat wrote this article. What I loved is that this that original study I spoke about, it's the first time that it's ever been done on humans, but it has been done on rats. And one question that he leaves us with is how they managed to keep rats from pedaling for extended periods of time. And that was just an image that won't leave me for a while. Goats and pedaling rats.
Quite haunting, actually. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
So the idea was at least 20 minutes, but is it then kind of increasing gains afterwards, do we think?
Yeah, when the heart, as the heart rate speeds up, these ripple effects in the hippocampus increase as well.
And the faster the heart rate, the more ripples, and the more ripples, the better for the hippocampus.
Yeah.
So if 20-minute threshold test,
That's an FTP test, isn't it?
absolutely rip it, 200 BPM for 20 minutes, 200 BPM for an hour, let's say, that's going to be good for my brain.
Tom, as I know you're someone that already has a reasonably high heart rate, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that's true.
So, do you want to push your heart that high?
Well,
that long?
look, if it's going to make me a bit smarter, then but the thing is, the irony, I guess, is in the immediate aftermath of that, I feel incredibly stupid after doing these things. But this is not surprising for me.
No,
that it is obviously good for your brain and what was it? What your hippocampus is good for learning, right? Which is kind of everything,
Learning,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Can I point our listeners in the direction of two books by Guardian journalist and sometimes cycling writer Peter Walker? He wrote a book called Bike Nation: How Cycling Can Save the World, and then another book called The Miracle Pill. The second one is probably more related to this, which is basically exercise really good for everything. Like, not just good for like this might sound obvious, but not just good for like keeping you physically healthy, but mentally healthy too. And then it helps the rest of the world. Just everything is better. Everything is better. Everything would be better if people cycled more. That banal observation, along with "Isn't bike racing great?"
Yeah,
is might come to your news, your inbox. It's in a week quite soon.
Who knew off the back when it was launched would be so groundbreaking?
Cycling, really good for you. Really good for you. Meg, I hate to put you on the spot again, but we talked quite a lot about Tadej Pogačar already, so I don't want to spend too long on him again. So can I just ask you about the story you wrote today about tariffs quickly?
Yes.
There are going to be the tariffs in the US on bike products are going to be lower now, which is huge for our American audience, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if they're actually going to be lower.
But they're just not going to be at the higher rate that was requested.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's quite the win for the bike industry in the US. So basically, about a year ago, there was a kids bike brand called Guardian and an aluminium trade company, I think that's right. Basically suggested that that import taxes should be applied to the bike industry on aluminium and steel, and that could represent
at a higher rate, at 50% or something.
Yeah, to 50%. Yeah, and that would be they'd have to work out the percentage of those materials in the bike, and then they would be what's the word? Taxed accordingly. Thank you very much. But yeah, it's an amazing success for them because there was, I think, 1,300 responses from the public, all kind of petitioning against this, and that represented the largest number of people writing in and complaining out of all the industries affected by this potential Section 232.
After your piece a couple of weeks ago, Tom, about how the bike industry is struggling, this is the smallest crumb of comfort for the American bike industry that tariffs aren't going to go quite as high as they might have. So that's a win.
Right. So my fear mongering is actually it's kind of paid off. What you're saying is we've successfully put pressure on the tariff industry on President Trump.
No, what I'm saying is he's a reader. Maybe if you looked at our comment section, sometimes you wouldn't be surprised. We will talk about Tadej Pogačar briefly again, because if he wins, big if, and we said it was 50-50 earlier, although Tom might have said it was 70-30, if he wins Paris-Roubaix on Sunday, he'll be the first ever rider to win all 5 monuments in a row.
I think 70-30 is probably fair. I would agree with that.
Yeah. It's almost kind of have we surpassed hyperbole? Can you give us any nuggets of what you were going to write about Tadej Pogačar, Tom?
Yeah, so the thing with Tadej Pogačar, and I interviewed him at the start of this year, which I've already said twice on this podcast, and it's becoming a bit repetitive now, so I'll stop saying it. But I was very conscious in my line of questioning that this is a rider who has already achieved greatness, right? He is considered one of the greats of the sport. But every time we write about him and every time anyone writes about him, we always kind of redefine what that greatness is. For lack of a better phrase, we kind of move the finish line. He crosses the finish line, then we go, actually, no, it's another 100 meters up, Tadej. Now you've got to do this, and now you've got to do this. We're moving the goalposts, basically. And that's kind of how I feel about Roubaix. It's like he's done he's won so much. He's won 4 Tours de France. He's won Flanders as many times as he can, basically. They should basically rename Strade Bianchi after him because he's so good at it. But now it's like... And Il Lombardia, certainly. But now it's like, yeah, but this is the one he needs to win, and then we'll say he's great. The numbers are on it, basically, that 3 riders in history, Eddy Merckx, Rick Van Looy, Roger de Vlamingh, have won all 5 monuments. Philippe Gilbert came close, bless him, but couldn't quite win.
Where did he finish at San Remo? What was his highest finish? Do you know?
I don't know. But he didn't win it, crucially.
He definitely didn't win it, yeah. I think he might have got a top 10.
De Vlamingh was the last one to do it. He did it on the 3rd of April, 1977, at the Tour of Flanders. So that means we're on for almost a decade. Not a decade, half a century. 5 decades. We're on for almost
5 decades.
49 years since anyone has done it, which I think is just testament to how challenging that is and how demanding these races are, and how you don't get a rider that's basically capable of winning all 5 of them. And we haven't for generations now. Yeah. And not only could Pogačar, join that club at Roubaix, he could be the first person to win all of them in a row. So unify all the belts is what you said, Adam, earlier. So hold all the titles of the row. And if he wins Paris-Roubaix, you would probably say he's quite likely to go on and win Liège and Lombardia, which would make him the only rider in history to win all 5 in 1 year. Ooh. That comes with the caveat that all 5 of these races do not exist in the women's side of the sport, and there are riders in the history of women's cycling that probably would have won all 5 in the same year. Yeah. But we can't make that comparison. So
and also the thing that people are always quick to point this out on the internet, is that monuments didn't actually mean that much until the 70s. Yeah. So it was very different. So, we can say, the first in the 120 years of cycling history, but also, the monuments are a construct, but then everything is a construct, and Pogačar is winning the constructs. Just to fill you on an earlier point, the best finish at Milan-San Remo for Philippe Gilbert was 3rd, and he did it twice in 2008 and 2011.
Tough.
Like that. He did it. He raced Milan-San Remo 18 times, and
Can I ask a question about the monuments? Why has it changed in relevance?
No, that's a really good question. I think cycling has kind of got a little bit better at marketing itself, and basically it took until the 80s for there to be some kind of season-long competition. This was called the Super Prestige, and basically it kind of incorporated all the big one-day races and some of the big tours as well. And the Grand Tours as well, and at that moment they kind of had to pick which ones were the bigger ones, and individually each of these big one-day races, all the monuments are kind of the oldest and the best, but together they make up the 5 now. But before it was like, Tour of Flanders is a big deal on its own, but now it's a big thing together, if that makes sense. They're basically the longest. They're all over 250 kilometers for the men, and they're all and over 150 kilometers for the women, and just kind of they have the weight of history behind them, and so they make sense as a collective. But there are other races that are just as old but not quite as prestigious. So the oldest one-day race is Milan-Torino, I think I'm right in saying. And I don't think that's even a World Tour race. And there are others that are kind of at different times of season, but these are the kind of just established 5, and it's kind of they've whittled down over time. But if I'm wrong about any of that, please do write in to cycling@futurenet.com, because I'm not quite the expert that I might sound like on this all the time.
Well, this is the difficult. There is no kind of like founding book. There's no Bible that explains all of this. So It just kind of It's kind of on us, the media, to set the agenda on it. So what we say goes on this kind of.
Yeah.
If we call it a monument, it's a monument.
Meg, like for example, Strada Bianchi, a lot of people call the sixth monument because it's only 20 years old and yet is kind of got that level of prestige already, but it's not quite there because it hasn't been around for 120 years like the rest of them.
Mhm.
That said, and I'm going to say it right now, I find Il Lombardia and Liège-Bastogne-Liège quite boring races. So, you know.
You're going to upset some people, Adam. We should move on before you get into this. You can save this for when we do the podcast on those.
Moving on to reader debate. We didn't have... There wasn't many things that got a lot of comments that haven't been things that we've already talked about, including can Tadej Pogačar win all 5 monuments this year. But one thing that did attract a lot of attention that we haven't really talked about yet is because of when it happened is Remco riding the Tour of Flanders. Tom, did you believe it when you saw that was actually happening, considering it happened on April Fool's Day?
I didn't believe it until I saw an Instagram reel of him at the start line. They don't announce anything on April Fool's Day that could be taken as unserious. I was getting press releases on April Fool's Day and I was like, I'm not looking at any of I don't trust any of these, because in amongst it I've got Subway telling me that they're going to start making pickled onion flavoured energy gels, which is not true, by the way. So that came out, obviously, and the phrasing of the press release as well, I was like, this just isn't true. They said, I can quote this as well. They said, Red Bull Borahansgrohe said, "We deliberately kept it under the radar to create a special moment for the fans, revealing it as a surprise on April 1st. Don't even, if it's an April Fool, if it's not on April Fool's, don't mention what day it is. Don't remind the readers that it's April Fool's Day." It turned out not to be an April Fool's, and Remco had a really good race, so good for him.
The really weird bit for me was that, like, it wasn't that they kept it a secret. They just lied. They just repeatedly lied. They just someone would say, "Is Remco riding the Tour of Flanders?" Because we think he might be, and Red Bull said no.
Yeah, this is what hasn't sat so well with the media. I don't think the fans care so much about this.
No, because it's a bit of fun, isn't it?
It's a bit of fun. They wanted Remco to ride anyway, so it's and as did the media. Like, the Belgian media was very excited about Remco riding. But the difficult thing is there were Belgian outlets and other outlets who had spotted him on a recon he'd done just after Christmas, and were like, "Here we go, this is it." They've been asking Red Bull since the team camps, and Red Bull's line is that they've the 100-day secret that they kept is testament to the cohesion and unity of the team. I agree with you, Adam. I think there's a bit of a difference between keeping a secret and flat out denying what it is. Whatever happens to the good old-fashioned no comment. And in the same way, Remco told the Flemish media that he'd been enjoying how we had ripped them off, so him and Red Bull had ripped them off. And I was like, I'm not sure that's the sort of narrative you want to be building a trust with the media and your fans, that you're going to kind of like lie to people and outright say you're not doing it.
Meg, what was your favourite April Fool, if you had one?
Well, cycling related, I really like the one that the Scottish Cycling did when they swapped out all the names of the team names with like anything.
Are you sure that one's not true?
Oh my gosh, I wish. Imagine. It was like, should I find it?
The bit was for those that don't know that all team names would now be replaced with Scottish products specifically.
Scottish products, yeah.
So,
Morrison's Iron Brew or something.
Red Bull became Iron Brew. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that kind of thing.
See, that's good-hearted fun, isn't it?
That's good-hearted. That's not. No, Remco isn't riding the Tour of Flanders. Oh wait, he is.
That's all of your correct information that you have is actually wrong, and we're going to tell you wrong information so that you can then feed back to the fans, because we're planning on doing a YouTube video about it ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. This is my favourite. Instead of Unibat Rose Rockets, they suggested they be called McBookie Space Cadets. McBookie Space Cadets. Brilliant.
Space Cadets. It's very good.
No, I don't know what Space Cadets are, though.
Just a different word for rockets at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Don't overthink it.
It just sounds so much more fun. Like whimsical.
It does. It does sound so much more whimsical.
I think the Rockets is pretty whimsical already.
Yeah. I'm just sad that we're not going to get a surprise entry into the Tour of Flanders every year now. Like next year, maybe Jonas Vingegaard.
That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, but it can get wackier. It can get wackier. Like, you know, this year it's going to be Noel Edmonds. There you go. Put him in there.
A reference for our friends across the pond there, I'm sure.
Hey, if you don't know who the reason why I said Noel Edmonds, Tom, was because all I could think about was Mr. Blobby. But I was like, I can't say Mr. Blobby's riding the Tour of Flanders.
What's the US version of Mr. Blobby? What's one of their talk show hosts? Jimmy Fallon? Jimmy Fallon? Is that his name?
Yeah, I mean, he's not the equivalent of Mr. Blobby, though, is he?
He's not. Yeah, sorry, that's very Noel Edmonds.
Yeah. I don't know enough about American children's TV to know their equivalent of Mr. Blobby, but there you go.
Right, you've derailed this with Mr. Blobby.
Wait, is it?
If you're listening and you're in America, Google Mr. Blobby.
It's terrifying. Don't Google Mr. Blobby.
Moving on from Remco and Mr. Blobby, do we have a hero or villain that isn't Mr. Blobby? We'll start with you, Meg.
So I've got a bit of a combo, hero and villain. So I didn't want to pick Tadej as my hero, so I've gone for someone else, mystery figure. And there was this video I saw after Demi Vollering had just finished her race, and Tadej's there at the side congratulating her, and she says, "My dad's going to be so happy that you've won. He's a massive Tadej fan." I don't know why I keep on calling him Tadej like he's my pal. Anyway, and so my villain is Demi Vollering's dad, because, you know, his daughter's just won Tour of Flanders. Although I know that both things can be true, so he's definitely probably not a villain, but, you know, that's my twisty, turny villain.
In my thought, the way you recollect that story is that he's seen Tadej Pogačar win and he's gone, great day, turned off the television and moved on to something else. I don't think that's true, but
Demi who?
I mean, I do agree that it does seem a shame that a viral moment from after the women's race is that the winner of the women's race is saying, "My dad's happy you won."
Yeah.
Because you couldn't imagine it happening the other way around. But, you know, maybe Mr. Pogačar, Tadej Pogačar's dad, I can't remember his name, I've read the book and everything, is a huge Demi Vollering fan. We simply can't know. Tom, do you have a hero or a villain?
I have a hero, and my hero is someone we haven't mentioned yet that deserves a shout out, which is Little Trek's Mads Pedersen. Because Mads Pedersen, in his first race of the year in early February in Valencia, broke his wrist and his collarbone, and that was everyone saying, well, there's the end of his classics campaign. The doctors thought he'd be out for 3 months. He returned 6 weeks later at Milan-San Remo, came fourth, just finished fifth at the Ronda, and bear in mind he got dropped from the first group and then he got dropped by Wout, so he kind of time trialed the last 50k. And it's not easy having a broken collarbone and broken wrist, or barely mended broken collarbone and wrist on the cobbles. And for him to end up salvaging his classics campaign after that and still be a strong contender going into Roubaix is a very admirable thing. And for that, Mads Pedersen is my hero.
My hero is probably also someone from Flanders, because I was trying to think of something alternative, but it's this time of the year when all that matters is Flanders and Roubaix. So, you know, there's no point going anywhere else. But I think my hero is Francie Koch for just the kind of outstanding teamwork that set Demi Vollering up on Sunday. But I've kind of got a collective heroes, because I was watching the end of the Tour of Flanders, the women's Tour of Flanders, with my girlfriend, and we kind of kept the TV on after the finish, and it didn't cut back to the studio anything, so you just saw the finish straight. And I love how at a race like the Tour of Flanders, every group sprints at the finish.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at the results here, even down to kind of 41st. So Leo Keekens of City Mesh Custom Pro Cycling Team sprinted that final group to get 41st place, and that just shows, I think just how much it matters. I love that attitude, you only see it if you're there, or if you've kind of got that unique television view, because obviously on the men's race they cut away to the studio straight away, but when you see down the finishing straight and you see how much it means to them, I love that attitude. So I guess what I'm saying is shout out, because I'm gonna list them all.
No,
no, I'm not. But like, I just love that. Like
anyone that reached anything over 400 watts on the final bit of the Tour of Flanders.
Yeah, like Kat Ferguson sprinted for 19th place. Like that's great. And obviously it does, and some of that does mean stuff as well because of UCI points, which is often forgotten about. So you can't just cruise in. So yeah, shout out for everyone sprinting for every single place.
I think that's quite a good and unexpected range of heroes and villains there.
Yeah, I think so. We've got Demi Vollering's dad. We've got all of the riders who sprinted, and we've got Mats Pedersen. Anyway, it's Roubaix on Sunday. Me and Tom are going. We're going to have fun in potentially rain. Could be historic. It's always historic.
This is a point of mine. It is always historic. There is always it's the first person from this place to win in these weather conditions or whatever. Or Van der Poel's the first Dutchman to win in horizontal rain or something. There's always something history making.
I think Van der Poel could become the first ever person to win 4 in a row. So
probably true.
Probably true. There are 2 mega bits of history that could happen in the men's race on Sunday, and then the women's race is so young that kind of everyone that wins makes their own bit of history.
Never had a 2-time winner.
We have had a British winner, but we haven't had a second British winner. So Zoe Baxter, I'm looking at you.
Zoe Baxter, the heir to the throne.
Exactly. Anyway, it's been lovely speaking to both of you. Meg, do you have any cycling plans this week?
Do I have any cycling plans this week? I used to do some training rides for my North London dirt ride, which I haven't even started. Last time I was on this podcast, I got lots of training advice from all of my colleagues, which was really lovely. And I haven't utilised a single one of them. So I think that will be the plan for this weekend.
When's race day?
The 9th of May.
Oh, you've got a month. Okay.
Ages, tons of time.
You're fine. Yeah.
Ages.
Mads Pedersen at this point had a broken collarbone. You're fine.
Sound. And my brain is going to be so beautifully elastic, towards the end of May. So it's all worth it.
We're going to have you back on, and it's going to be like Einstein's here.
The ripples in your cerebellum.
Yeah.
Was it the cerebellum? No, it was hippocampus. Sorry.
Hippocampus, yeah.
Wow.
On that note, I think it's a perfect place to end it. Meg, thank you for joining.
Thank you, sorry.
Tom,
thank you very much.
And we'll be back next week. This has been Off the Back. Subscribe to Cycling Weekly. If you want to get in touch, please email cycling@futurenet.com or contact us through any of our social medias. Subscribe on YouTube, give us a like, or listen wherever you get your podcasts.